Well, well, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope the stream is running okay. I am testing out the vertical stream concept. So it looks like on my end, YouTube has finally updated itself where they had this option where I could stream both, you know, the typical landscape stream and then also a vertical as part of a dual stream. So in the past, when I was testing it out, I ended up trying to stream two different versions at the same time. Conan, what's going on? Conan says hello. Hey Yobel, is there a self PMO channel I can send a link? Oh yeah, I saw over on the Discord. Yeah, I think that was fine. Listen, I have no hard rules, but yeah, good luck on the event. And yeah, I think you put it in the photos section. That's good. Dator says hello Yobel. Hey chat, good evening. Guten Abend. Guten Abend, Dator. How's it going? I was just giving a quick little update just in case. I don't know if the stream quality is going to drop at all. So basically over on YouTube, they have the dual stream toggle so that I could stream both vertically and landscape, which is always cool. And in the past, if you were watching me on YouTube, I have tested this out before, but without being too complicated, I guess I ended up using two different, it basically would start two different live streams simultaneously, which can get really confusing because then if you go to my YouTube channel, it would just come out as two different videos, right? It was just like a lot to handle, and it's also complicated. So now it has this option where within my single stream, I should be able to just broadcast. So if you're watching my stream and you happen to catch it in the shorts feed, I guess it would show up there, or you can watch it normally. I don't actually know if that's true or if I maybe hit some buttons. I did all this last minute right before I started the stream. And I'm already getting an error message over on YouTube where it's like, hey, please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. And I have no idea how to do that. So wish me luck, guys. Anyways, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone's been enjoying some chill weekday vibes. I know I have. It's been pretty fun so far. You know, just kind of vibing with you guys, editing. Oh, you're hanging out with my cats. Look at this guy. Look at him. This guy right here. Hello, buddy. All right, so Kimpop says hi. Good boy. I just fed the cat, so I think they're asking for more. Lately, he's been like demanding more food from me, so we'll see if he comes back or not. Where's he going? Let's see. Look at this guy. Good boy, Kimpop. All right. Before they distracted me, was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh yeah, so it's been good. I've just been working on some things behind the scenes. I've been editing photos and videos and also preparing for my upcoming trips. So the good news is I mentioned in October, I'm taking a couple with me to Uganda for about 2 weeks. And we're going to be going through all the beautiful national parks and everything. However, the concern was with the whole Ebola situation, whether or not there would be certain travel restrictions or any other kind of potential barriers. Thankfully, as of today, there was some announcements from the Uganda government where, I don't know, they do it like through there's like a certificate, I guess, through the World Health Organization that Uganda is officially Ebola free, which is great, you know? The world should be. Anyways, so now it's just a matter of waiting for the US government to maybe update their rules to allow travel for US citizens to Uganda and back without any extra restrictions in place. So if that goes well, if there's no issues there, if they release all those little travel restrictions or lift it, then my October trip should be good to go. And then I'm planning for November. So I'm kind of viewing it as the month of September. So this coming month, I'll be spending a lot more time just putting all the pieces together. That's like my final month in my mind, final full month where I can focus on testing out, receiving, putting together all of the different tech gear such that I could run the stream in Masai Mara. So we'll be in the national park in November. It'll be me and one of our community members. Shout out to Swiss Army Cinema over on the YouTube chat. He will be joining me and we're going to be doing this live stream from the wild for I think like five days straight, 5 or 6 days. And it's going to be a lot of rigging up the Jeeps. There's a chance we might even be able to live stream from a hot air balloon. I mean, how cool would that be? And also be a fun test. So yeah, you can imagine there's a lot of tech stuff involved behind the scenes to make sure everything works properly. And I'm not a tech guy, so I need to treat this like as if I'm back in school and, you know, as if I'm studying for an exam. But if it does work out, you guys will be in for a treat. I hope you guys will stay tuned for that. And it'll be the first of many steps to come in terms of how I feel I can evolve myself as a content creator. We'll get to the level of Phase Adapt and Maya Higa. They're currently in Alaska right now. So, you know, you can check out their streams. They're doing some crazy stuff. They're doing a bit of wildlife with the bears, which I'm so jealous of because that's on my to-do list, is to do a trip to Alaska for that. Anywho. All right, so those are the things that I've been working on. Also, quick little intro, as I should always do at the start of my stream. My name is Yobel. I go by YobelPrize. I do mostly wildlife and travel content, starting off in photography, shifting into videography, eventually into YouTube, and now live streaming. And for most of the streams, I spend going behind the scenes as you see me edit my photos and my videos live on stream. And yeah, share my thoughts throughout the process and spend time trying to learn more about whether it's photo editing, video editing, camera stuff, travel stuff, and right now, learning more about filmmaking, the art of storytelling and filmmaking. All of that is generally the topics that I focus on. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Oh, I just saw my cat pop up again. And of course, the bonus features of my stream is that sometimes my cats decide to join, so we've got dedicated cameras just for them. So, you know, we'll never miss a moment with these guys. All right, so where are we? Well, today I've got I still have over 1,800 photos to edit. So we got a long ways to go. Now, when I say 1,800, I'm sure a lot of these you can see are fairly they might be duplicates or they're from the same sequence of shots. So chances are it won't take me that much time. I just need to edit one of them and I can probably carry it across to the rest. So it's not as daunting as a number like that sounds, but it should be equally exciting because we got some cool shots coming up. Separately, I'm working on some YouTube videos. I'm currently putting the script together for a video about the Freewell magnetic, oh my god, I never can get the freaking title of this right. The Freewell V2 magnetic variable ND / color polarizer 3:7 stop filter. It's a mouthful, but yeah, I'm working on the scripting for that so that I could put together a proper product review of my time traveling with it. How did I enjoy it? Any issues? Yada yada. And then I'm making a video about the 135mm f1.8 lens. And oh my god, I was having so much fun with this. I really hope you guys are enjoying the new content. I hope you guys can notice, for me I feel it, but maybe you guys don't feel it as much, but I'm definitely being more, especially when I don't have these travels in between, I've been trying to be more consistent with publishing different types of content online, and that includes my Instagram. So I finally have come up with a concept that was easy to rinse and repeat as a template. And now that I've kind of, you know, created 4 or 5 of these already that I've posted online, I've just posted the most recent one on Instagram. Now it's like, okay, cool. I've got the structure. Now I can simplify my brain just to, you know, work within that structure. What does that mean? Okay, so for example, this is one that I'm working on right now. And let me just mute the music part of it. But this will be like the intro. I'm probably going to use, it won't be this long, but some moments of here's me behind the scenes during my gorilla trek. So imagine this will be one of my future Instagram reels. It will start with this, some kind of text will pop up.
The baby over there. Yeah.
Again, it won't be this long probably, but enough to get the picture, right? You get a bit of context. You see me standing in a river or something, and then you can see, so hopefully it'll intrigue the viewers as to what is going on. And then you see me whip out the 400mm lens on this camera with all these gadgets attached to it. And you see me shooting, and you'll notice in the monitor, we've got this baby gorilla and the mother, and the baby's climbing on top of the mom. So anyways, that will show, and then you see me rapid fire taking a bunch of shots, and that will turn into the transition, where it will then hop into the editing mode. So I'm still putting it all together, but I'll show you guys behind the scenes time lapse. So I'll need to start dragging this in. Hey, might as well do it now. So this all looks very ridiculous, and what the hell's going on? And you know, that makes sense because what is going on, but I'll show you. So then from there, it will transition into showing what's happening right now, basically, right? So I've been recording my live streams in this vertical format while I'm editing my photos. So this is back, I think this is about 2 weeks ago at this point. If you were tuning in for that live, I appreciate your presence there. So this was a recording I did. I think this one took over an hour. Am I wrong? Oh yeah, this is part 1, and then part 2 is this one. Yeah. This was a super long editing session. I forgot. So you can see how freaking long it was. It was from, yeah, it was like a couple hours that I spent just editing this one shot. So it was definitely one of my longer attempts to kind of knock this through. So this is playing it in real time, but of course from my end, this is meant to be for like an Instagram reel, YouTube shorts, and so on. So that's where we'll be speed running it, right? So I'll do like an editing time lapse. So then you'll kind of see it play out more quickly as you see me zoom in, as you see me work on the photo, figure things out, add the colors in, shape the lights, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, it's the whole process that we've done. And then it will, after that plays, then we'll show the final moments, which is probably we'll start with the wider shot. So it'll like switch to, it'll switch to this shot. Although I'll probably have it framed a bit more like this. So then, yeah, you'll be able to see the final image. I switch between like the before and after, and then, yeah. So anyways, I don't know if any of that made sense, but this is what I'm working on. Actually, I can show you guys some of the previous ones. That will help put it together. So this is you guys have, actually, I haven't posted this online yet. So it's day 6. I just posted day 5. So here, you guys get a taste of it. Oh, you know what? Let me loop it. Where does it go to? Oh, it's already looped. All right. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that will be engaging enough. What is this? It's about 20 seconds, roughly, just under. So this is the template, right? Nothing too fancy. It's just more about what is in the structure. The structure is fairly straightforward in that we've got the opening scene. So it'll start with the scene. So you get to see the moment behind the shot, right? So before the photo is snapped, what was leading up to it, what's the context, and then seeing the moment that I actually press that shutter button. So that's kind of in that first sequence. And then usually I'll just have a little, text showing up. So this one is like day 6 and it just repeats itself. So we're going to have like day 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see in the bottom here, I'm taking the shot. And thankfully I can do this for a number of, I can make this series pretty long because throughout Uganda, Munich, and Tanzania, I was filming and shooting with this Osmo Nano behind the scenes to kind of show you the moment behind the shot. So yeah, this is like the step 1. Then step 2 is where we show the speed run of the editing. So it's like a time lapse. So then I just place the raw in the center. And then step 3, or the final act, is when you finally get to see the edited versus the raw. And then, in this case, I just have it play in a full screen mode. And the fun thing for me is I spend a lot of time trying to figure out the right soundtrack that should go with each of these, which seems kind of simple maybe to some people or boring. To me, it's really fun. It's like super fun to see if I can find the perfect soundtrack and synchronize the beats of this video to the beats of the song, you know? So yeah, that's what we aim to do. And so after this stream, I'll probably do more of it. The only reason I'm not doing these on stream currently is the problem is these soundtracks will get me in copyright trouble. It's just like a lot of a nuisance for me. For instance, if I'm editing this and I'm playing this over and over and over again, and most likely the soundtracks that I'm using, they tend to be from like very popular, trendy music. So then I'll get hit with copyrights, and it's just like such a hassle to have to afterwards clip out those parts and blah, blah, blah. So otherwise, I would totally do this more often on the stream. I might still do it because it is a fun process, and I hope you guys can find some value in it as well. At the very least, you can see my thought process when it comes to like, okay, let's listen to the soundtracks. I pick out which ones I think could fit the mood. Then you see like every step of like, how do I clip this? How do I synchronize? And then, yeah. But, you know, we got enough stuff to work on, so we'll figure that out. Daytour says, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the kind words. So in the meantime, what are we going to work on? We're going to work on these photos. We still haven't reached the wildlife yet, but we should be actually today, because we finished these photos. All right, so we got a couple shots before we hit wildlife territory. So we got the chef or the restaurant owner, and then we've got the beef or the meats hanging from the window. And then why did it jump all the way over there? Come on. Then we have this kid shot. So we got 3 shots and then we hit wildlife. So, all right. While that's happening, I do want to play some videos from YouTube or see what would be of interest to us. Let's see. We've got a bunch of videos already lined up, but I want to double check if there's something new. Beekeepers. Ooh. A mini doc on beekeepers. It's like 3 minutes long. Okay. That's kind of got my interest. So I'm going to click on that. How to write great dialogue. The AI drama that destroyed a creator's reputation. Damn, people are really latching onto this, aren't they? But I will actually watch this because it looks like it's almost like a podcast. So I could take notes from this. I would love to see eventually. I want to have my own podcast. Okay, let's start with that actually.
I believe genuinely at this point, when it comes to sponsorships in the filmmaking space, it's we got to remember that this is a job. At the end of the day, these creators are doing a job. But where I feel like the issue came into place, at least for this Higgsfield deal, is because I'm gonna show y'all. I've got Maddie's video up, and we'll watch it. We'll watch it here in just a second. I think the issue is you have a content to market misstep. Like you got Higgsfield.
Okay, so just a quick pause as I'm watching this. Like I said, I usually, when I'm watching things, I'm hoping to learn from it. So looking at this, it looks like this is, what is this? It's called Creative Fam Live. Okay. And it seems to be a duo, and they do live streams about probably creative stuff. So I'm just trying to double check how they're setting it up. So they have this overlay. They've got this cool podcast studio and got some nice vibes, and their chat in the center. and then almost like a news broadcast. That's kind of cool because I would love to consider stuff like this as well. You know, eventually I do want to have like my own podcast. How cool would that be? And especially, in order for it to work, I feel like you need to have a second person, generally speaking, at least one more. You need two people, right? So you can bounce off each other. Now, one issue is some of my closest friends, they don't live in Dubai, and none of them, for the most part, are into the the creative space. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but definitely not like photography, videography stuff. So I'm kind of on an island on that. There are some cool people in Dubai I can work with, but that would be really cool if we can take our learnings from doing these live streams from home, but then imagine in a podcast setup with a second person, with like a structure, and I think that's cool. So let me make sure to subscribe to these guys so I don't lose track of it. Let me open up their channel as well. Okay, anyways, and now they do there's a segment here, I'm assuming from their live stream that they clipped out, speaking about this whole AI controversy. So
Trying to use a filmmaker, Matty Hapoya.
Hapoya. They
To
keep calling
market-
they keep calling him a filmmaker. Is that really true? Am I just not involved in his backstory? I just thought he was a YouTuber who does a lot of like product reviews and stuff, but okay.
Higgsfield to filmmakers while simultaneously saying we are the thing that is going to replace the current status quo that is filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of filmmakers are getting mad and feeling kind of like a little like off about the brand deal, because, you know, I mentioned this before. A lot of people like to equate the AI conversation to, well, there was a time where everybody had horses and then somebody started selling cars.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. When people were selling cars to people who rode horses, for people who thoroughly enjoy horseback riding,
Yeah.
they're jockeys, or they actually love breeding horses. They love horses. Like, that's their thing. Trying to tell them you don't need that horse no more. Here is a car. I think you're missing.
I don't know if that's a good. I don't know if that's necessarily the right analogy there, because like when we were talking about the days of horses to the cars, it's more focusing on the fact that the horses they were somewhat rendered useless, right? They were displaced as a mode of transportation, but it wasn't like there was a lot of humans that lost their jobs per se because of that, unless they were somehow, you know, reliant on their services were something to do with selling horses. So unless you were like directly selling horses or whatever, it's more like the suffering was maybe, you can't even say suffering, because it's more just like, hey, horses weren't as useful anymore. I think the example people tend to give a bit more relevant and more recent would be like the automation, right? Like with jobs being displaced. So it's more like a human's job becomes rendered useless, not necessarily the horse's job. So then it's like whether you're working in manufacturing, I know that was a big thing in the US. I don't know about other parts of the world, but basically when it came to, hey, technology has improved so much that a lot of, a lot of people's jobs who were physically building things, manufacturing things, now a robot arm could do their job more efficiently, faster, forever, whatever. And so then it was more just the fact that there was this mass displacement of people who lost their jobs. And it wasn't just losing their jobs. It was like you lose your purpose in life, because like that job was either something you spent years doing perhaps, or it was there to sustain and provide income to raise your family. So it just like caused so many downstream issues of people turning to depression or like alcohol or abusing other substances, or ending themselves or whatever else, right? It just led to so much random stuff because like the technology, it was implemented so quickly, and there was no regulation or necessarily, and I don't even say regulation, there wasn't anything built as a safety net to help cushion the blow for those that were directly impacted. So the problem was more the scale and no preparation no sound preparation for those who lost their jobs to be able to get back on their feet. So yeah, it led to a lot of displacement. But then no one would argue that we want to go back to the world where people are, you know, physically building cars and other things, because one, it's kind of dangerous. It's you know, somewhat menial as a task and not like fulfilling, depends on the person, but it's like we've reached a level of efficiency that we don't want to, you know, revert from. And now with AI, the question is like, well, if you can now mass displace people at massive scale across multiple industries, then it's like, okay, again, people's jobs are getting replaced in a scale where, you know, what comes next. We got Conan asking back, just need to sort things out. It's 20 degrees in the UK, so hot. Well, climate change, man.
I think they're missing the point of, I actually love the process of filmmaking. I love using a real camera. I love lighting. I love storytelling. I love creating the images. I love being on set. While yes, the AI stuff will technically give you a video, just like shooting a film or shooting videos will actually give you a video from a real camera.
Yeah.
You're missing the process. And I think where a lot of filmmakers are getting upset is people don't want to let go of the process, but AI is almost making you feel like if you don't let go of the process that you love, you will be left behind because this is the future.
Yeah.
And I think that that's no more like shown than in Maddie's actual video, which we have Maddie's video right here. So this is literally what Maddie posted over on Instagram.
We don't have.
Conan asks, is there a channel I can promote it? I mean, you already did it, right? Just you posted a photo in the photo thing. I think that's fine.
$100 million. Higgsfield AI made a movie.
Let me see if I can start over.
This might be the 5D.
Okay, so this photo, I'm probably not going to edit too much, to be honest. It kind of looks good with some of my presets that I've applied, so I don't want to do anything too crazy. Let's just go ahead and plop this guy into Dehancer and finish it up. Conus is like a Twitch link. Just put it in the chat. I don't know. Listen, man, I have no idea. Like, just feel free to put a link about whatever you're doing in the yeah, just like in the general chat. I don't have a section specifically for like people to promote themselves. It's more just like, hey, if you have some photo or a video you want to share, just put it into either photo or video, or if it's a link to something, then you just put it in the chat, I guess.
Of AI
just don't. The only thing I say is just don't abuse that, okay? Like, don't go crazy with like, hey, I'm always promoting my things here, blah, blah, blah. It can get a little bit too spammy, and I'm not necessarily wanting that kind of behavior. It's more just like if people have photos and videos that they want to share, get people's comments on, feedback, you know, showcase your work. I think that's always fun.
Filmmaking for everybody, and it was really the 5D Mark II that kicked it off. AI is democratizing big budget Hollywood movies for everybody.
I think sci-fi movies, crazy locations, props.
Post-apocalyptic would be another hard one to do. Or full fantasy land, riding whatever this thing is. Ideas that normal filmmakers like you and me could never even think about because we don't have $100 million. Higgsfield AI made a movie with Seedance 2.5 that I think every filmmaker should watch because it will open your eyes to what's now possible. It's called The Cully Hill Boys. They licensed image and likeness of real people. They had a real script. They had real filmmakers working on it. And the budget, $2 million. It's because of incredibly talented, creative filmmakers and AI that this movie exists and doesn't cost $100 million. What's cooler, they actually released the whole project, all their assets, the prompting, the generations, everything they used to make this movie on Higgsfield AI. Now, I still think...
Kona says, more likely a one-time thing. No, I mean, like I said, you're not doing anything wrong. Thank you for asking, by the way. I appreciate that. No, man, listen. Yeah, share the link. Let people know what you're trying to do, but yeah. But thanks, man. I think this photo is good to go. I guess I didn't watch the full Matty thing. I didn't realize there's a bit more context here. But either way, I mean, I can see why this became so controversial.
That hybrid filmmaking is the ultimate best way to go, where we're still using traditional filmmaking tools and techniques to actually film things, but then we bring in AI where it makes sense. I think in the future, we will literally go through our script and we will figure out what things we need to actually film, what things we need plates for, whether it's video clips or images of objects, so that we can then use AI to change and augment, and then what things will be fully AI generated. It's the new school in-camera, CGI, green screen thinking. This movie made me realize 3 things are now possible for all filmmakers. 1, big sets. Sky's the limit. Whatever you can think of is now possible for you. Number 2, unlimited.
I'm streaming and doing photos of a rally. Speak out just of save the water. Lock shore of the blue-green algae.
I'm streaming and doing photos of a rally. Speak out just of save the water. Barra diagonal lock shore of the blue-green algae.
It's funny hearing it in a Spanish accent. But yeah, you're going to stream and do photos of a rally. Gotcha. Well, it sounds like a good conservation effort. So best of luck on that.
Damn.
I like how this podcast is set up or not the podcast itself, but well, I guess maybe not. I don't know. It is a bit messy in some respects. Not that I'm one to complain, but I guess they have the 2-screen version of them and then the whatever they're looking at. Actually, okay, maybe I take it back, because now one feedback would be both these guys are looking towards the right, because that's where the big screen is probably. However, they place the monitor display, the overlays in between them. So now it just feels weird because the guy on the right is looking away from the actual screen. So it probably would make more sense if they put the overlay of their camera views over on the left, stack it, so then both of them, when they're looking at the screen, it looks like visually they're looking at the monitor.
So getting even more.
Free press.
Oh, wait a minute. How much Maddie got paid? How can I get Maddie, you owe me some money for playing that during the live stream.
2% of that $500,000 deal you got.
Yeah. $500,000 deal is crazy. Like, so here's the deal. The video comes out, and I'll be honest with you. I see it, and my brain goes, all right, cool. He did a Higgsville ad, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. But then you start scrolling through the comments, and people care.
Oh.
Philip Bloom, this is so sad.
Oh, dang.
Thomas, end of an era.
What do you think when he means this is so sad? Like
Philip
Maddie
Bloom.
doing this or Higgsfield?
I think Philip Bloom was the person was that the guy's video we saw? Maybe.
I think he left it vague on purpose.
Yeah.
That would be, I mean, he's a man who wrote many blogs and has made tons of videos. I don't think figuring out the proper wording.
That's not the first comment you want.
Like,
you don't
it's
want
not like,
Philip Bloom to be like, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Tom Shaw, the sad part is he'll get more money from Higgs with the engagement despite it being 100% negative. Here's Quinn from our own group. Miss the old Maddie. Like, this is like, and then you got Adrian.
6 shots, bro.
Which we know Adrian, he's on the Higgsville train too. So I see this, and the pushback is very clear. There's not a lot of people. Jacob Owen's another one. Like, there's not a lot of people who are incredibly ecstatic.
Okay, first photo done. I kind of did most things mindlessly, if I'm being honest, but yeah, this is like a interesting shot. I'm sure there are other aspect ratios maybe I should consider. Let's see. I'll try one attempt. I kind of like this IMAX version though. I don't think the 16:5 would work just because there's not enough space. Although, it almost could work if I just had a little bit more space. You know what I mean? Because then you're getting like this window into this. But yeah, it's not good enough. I could see a close-up framing like this maybe. But like I said, I think this IMAX version is good enough because by not cropping the top and the bottom, you do get a little bit more of the environment here. So you can see there's some graffiti right outside this the front window of his shop. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably best to keep it this way. So we are done with this photo. On to the next one. Boom, boom, boom.
With the content. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was really that big of a deal. Couple filmmakers, couple creators are upset until I was on Threads. Actually, this was sent to me. And when you got MKBHD
Oh
making
my
comments,
God.
Yeah, it's another.
now you're in a whole nother spot. It says MKBHD comments. He says, I remember when the 5D Mark II came out. It was revolutionary as a form factor.
No shot. So even Marquise Brownlee is weighing in. Wow. I kind of feel bad for Mati. I feel like there's so much hatred right now. And for me, he just always seemed like he doesn't seem to be someone to really necessarily hate on. He doesn't spread some negative messaging, but I get it with AI especially. I don't agree that he came off as condescending. I think his words can be misconstrued, or by him promoting, such obvious, generative AI stuff that should have been obvious, in my opinion, that there's not going to be a positive reaction to it. But yeah, anyways, my point is I can get the backlash, but I won't go so far as to say like he's some terrible human being or was being super condescending. But then again, I think someone had mentioned he might have been in the comments like defending himself in a way maybe that was untoward, but that could have been someone else. Actually, I'm mixing it up. Let's see.
But still required a lot of skill and experience to master and deliver a shallow depth of field look that people hadn't seen before. That then inspired people like us to try and emulate parts of that with those same tools. These generative AI tools, to me, seem to be completely missing the inspiration part. Nobody is inspired by these. Worst part is it's trained on real human-made material without any credit. And I think that is going to be the issue that even for me, I go, no matter how good the AI stuff is,
Yeah.
no matter how good the AI stuff gets, the generative stuff gets, AI will always have this sort of cloak of negativity around it because of its birthplace, which is in stolen information. And until that happens, I believe that people will always have some type of negative feeling towards generative AI. And even as it erodes other things and people will pick out other problems, the argument that they'll never be able to figure out is, yeah, but you're only this good. Like, even if it becomes amazing, completely indistinguishable, you cannot tell that it's AI. People will always look back and go, yeah, but you're only there because you stole from the hard works of actual people who got nothing. And now you're turning around and taking that stuff that you've learned, you package it into a product, and now you're selling that back almost to the same people, because you're literally saying, hey, we studied all these filmmakers.
Yeah.
And now you as a filmmaker buy our Higgsville thing.
Yeah.
Here you go.
So, gosh, heard everything you said. I don't even want to play devil's advocate for the fun of it, because looking at MKBHD and Philip Bloom straight roasting makes me want to not even contribute my thoughts. But this is a safe place, and it's not a safe place because we're all caring about each other's feelings. I don't care. I want to open it up. I want to should we invoke his name? Kanye?
Oh my
Let's just take a step back just for a moment.
You're very careful.
No.
We can't go against the AI companies. And
No. I'm saying, can we have a conversation? Are you guys allowed? Are you guys willing? I don't care. I got the mic. You don't. Can we have a conversation about it? Because I'm not getting a bag. I've never gotten a bag from Higgsville, and I'm not defending Maddie. I'm not into that. When I particularly saw that video, I think maybe from the way that he was hoping that it would come across as the tools that are available to you as a filmmaker now to be able to pull off some of the things that we either did poorly before or would help you to do it better now, and that sort of deal. And there's a piece of me that was just kind of my brain. Now, I want to be clear, because some of y'all are crying and some of y'all are seething, probably. I'm not, I think we're going to talk about later in the show if it's taking away people's jobs. We're going to talk about the stolen part of it.
Right.
I'm not, I'm leaving it at the simple joy of creating something better. Maybe getting your pilot, your pitch, your script in front of a studio to be able to be picked up.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it for the fun. I'm talking about it for the love of the game. There's a portion of your film that needs to be generated that you can't have it generated, or you can't physically, because of money, have it done.
Yeah.
Or you're going to make it look really crappy. Is that okay? Like, is that fine?
And I feel like, I mean, I love these types of conversations because obviously it helps you actually think through how, principled your positions are or not. It seems like it's a question of like what can be done as an individual at a micro level versus like what are the impacts at a macro. So at the micro, I don't like, I think I said as much as well, but like I don't necessarily fault any one individual from utilizing AI for their creative endeavors to, even if they use it, I almost don't even care what the intent is. If you're an individual and you want to use AI for entertainment, for productivity, for artistic pursuits, creativity, whatever, it's like, I don't fault anyone for wanting to use this tool because it's like the tool's out there. It's not going away. And maybe that's a bit of a defeatist attitude. But like generally speaking, I don't believe that it's possible or plausible to actually block certain innovations. Like even with the horse and buggy example, right? I don't think there was ever a world the moment this invention came about that it would replace the need for riding horses because now you got vehicles. There's no world where, that genie is now out of the bottle. You can't take it back. So I think it's the same with AI. It's like now that this technology exists that can do so many insanely, you can't even fathom the depths of the types of innovations that could be possible, as well as the dangers too. But yeah, once it's out there, it's like how exactly you're going to stop that. I think regulation is always the way to do it, though. I just don't think a blanket ban will ever prevent it. And also, I don't think shaming people is the right mentality either, because it's like you put a blanket shame or blame or, it just ends up you catch people in the strays. And yeah, I just don't think I tend to be the type who wants to just celebrate any types of innovations with guardrails in place. So I don't blame an individual. I don't, like, for instance, I personally also use AI quite often. In the beginning of my streams, I would talk to ChatGPT all the time, right? I haven't recently, but that's just because I got lazy with it. And I've been using Claude more than ChatGPT. I haven't touched ChatGPT in a while. But to me, it's like if I can use it to better understand, learn, develop skills, create stuff, as an individual, it's out there, use it. But then at a macro level, there are more damaging concerns to think about, whether it's people's jobs being displaced or effects to the environment potentially, or how AI could be used to create negative things or whatever, political instability and so on. But as an individual, I mean, what can you do?
Or is it like, no, this is evil, don't touch it?
So I feel like there's a alternate version of video generation that worked. We just will never see it. So what I mean by that is, had a company been able to create this level of quality, but they paid the studios to be able to pull those movies to be able to train off of, in which the directors, the actors, everybody got properly compensated for. If YouTube paid every creator that our videos all got ripped and that these generative tools stole our videos in order to train these models, but we all got paid for it, or we could opt in or opt out, or if there was a model that said, hey, submit us your videos, we'll pay you for your videos, we're going to create a video model, and it was created from scratch holistically, I do believe that, like...
Yeah, but it's like, that's the whole point as well, right? Because my assumption is that I'm assuming all of the generative AI tools out there that everyone relies on, I'm assuming it's all coming from the backs of stealing from, you know, artists and other information, right? My assumption is like just from the beginning, like even to have that generative AI before your project even starts and you want to say build it from scratch, it's like just to use the tool, you're using a tool that was created through other people's works that weren't compensated. So then it's like there's no world now that we could ever go back, could we? I have no idea. What
the
do I know?
same way how tools have gotten better in the filmmaking space, like the technology has gotten better. Like to simulate water at one point was incredibly difficult. Now it has gotten easier. People don't look at the people who use the easier tool today as being any less of a filmmaker than the people who use the harder one at the beginning. We shoot digital today. They used to have to shoot film. Some of them, Christopher Nolan, still shooting film. Film in the hardest way possible, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody looks at digital filmmakers as being any less than because they are taking an easier route. It's the source, I think, from how that easier thing came from. It's got a lot of people upset. And even for me personally, like, I know that AI has trained on my work and I hate it. I would love to get a freaking check in the mail that says like, hey, like, you know, we stole your stuff, copyright infringement, but you know, at least here's something for your troubles.
Yeah.
But that's not happened. Hey, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more content like this, because let's face it, sooner or later.
Cool. All right. So we got a new channel that we can look through at different points.
Everywhere you look, you can find advice on how to properly expose an image.
Overexpose it. Last 1.7. Overexpose my images. Overexposing.
Most videos online will tell you to overexpose by 1 or 1.7 stops. And then we get all this criticism about how washed out everything looks now. So I started wondering if maybe we're approaching this wrong. Maybe we should be exposing closer to what we actually want the final image to look like. I started going through some of my older footage, and a lot of my favorite images were shot on an old Sony camera with terrible dynamic range and low light performance. Most of the time I was shooting a stop under. Technically those images are worse, but I still like them more. Maybe it's the density or the crushed blacks. Maybe the grain reminds me of film. I'm not entirely sure. So I decided to look at how some of the best cinematographers working today actually expose their images, because my gut was telling me that overexposing by 1.7 stops all the time probably wasn't the answer.
I gradually learned lighting myself. I never went on a film set. I never watched anybody else work.
So I started with Roger Deakins, because if there was anyone I thought that would have a clear answer, it was probably him.
So it's the image that you have in your head that's more important than the technique, if that makes sense.
And what was really interesting was that he doesn't really seem to talk about exposure in terms of giving the camera more light just because it can take it. When someone asked him on the forums of rogerdeakins.com about exposing to the right, he said, shoot it the way you want it to appear on screen. And then someone asked about one of the really dark interiors in Blade Runner 2049. He said, there's always a place where you want your mid-exposure to fall, and in that particular shot, the thing that he was using as reference was a countertop. It's such a simple way of looking at it. But he had a point in the image that he wanted to look a certain way, and he exposed around that exact point. And then I started looking at Bradford Young and Arrival, because a lot of that movie was actually underexposed. The memory sequences were around 2 stops under, and a large portion of the movie was at least a stop under. And Young literally said, with the Alexa, underexpose as much as you can. Which is almost the complete opposite advice that I had been hearing. And looking at Arrival, it makes sense. That movie feels dark. There are a few things in the image that really ever feel bright. And Young even described the LUT that they were using by saying everything exists in the toe. So maybe I was onto something. Maybe letting the image live lower was part of what I was responding to. And then in my research, I got to Emmanuel Lubetsky. And he actually talks about how differently he exposed film compared to digital. With film, he liked giving the negative more exposure, but when he was asked if digital changed the way he worked, he said, absolutely, very different. And then he continued to say, you have to underexpose. So now I had Bradford Young saying to underexpose the Alexa as much as you can, Lubetsky saying you have to underexpose digital. I'm looking at movies like Arrival and The Revenant and thinking maybe my original thought wasn't actually that far off. And then you get to someone like Greg Fraser and his work on the Batman. Fraser said, from an exposure standpoint, everything borders on the edge. And that's exactly what that movie looks like. There are shots where you can barely see Robert Pattinson. Sometimes you only see his eyes. But if Fraser had taken the same image and said, I need to give the sensor another stop or two just to make sure everything's clean, it would have completely changed the way the image looks. The darkness...
I don't understand what he's talking about, though. Because I run into the same problem, right? Because I was like, hey, I keep underexposing my footage, my photos, and I kind of like how that looks, as opposed to when it's overly bright. But then my assumption was that you should be exposing to the right, because then always later in post, you can always bring down the exposure. You can bring down the lighting as needed. It's just if you don't expose to the right, you run the risk of not being able to rescue it later. So maybe it's more speaking to how intentional are you with your shooting already. So if you're someone who already knows what you want, then you don't need to expose to the right. But if you're like me and you're like, hey, I just want to have some creative flexibility after the fact,
is part of that film. So at that point I started thinking, okay, maybe this is actually pretty straightforward. Maybe the reason some of these images feel the way they do is because these cinematographers aren't afraid to underexpose digital. And then I found Dan Lauston, who shot The Shape of Water, another movie with incredibly dark images, deep blacks and heavy shadows, and a lot of the same qualities that I'd been looking for. And his advice was never, ever underexpose. Which kind of ruined my theory, because now Bradford Young is saying underexpose as much as you can, Lubetsky's saying you have to underexpose, and Lauston's saying never ever underexpose. And then the more I kept looking, the worse it got. Jaron Blaschke says, I try not to expose for safety and print down. Eric Messerschmidt says, it's more fun to live on the edge of too thin. Darius Kanji, all the nights in Uncut Gems are underexposed. Sam Levy said, I sometimes underexpose the image by as many as 3 stops in camera. Newton Thomas Siegel said, I think the myth of digital is that you underexpose because it can't hold the highlights. Larkin Seipel said, a richer exposure just creates better color information in the end. Roger Deakins, shoot it the way you want it to appear on screen. Greg Fraser, everything borders on the edge. Bradford Young, everything exists in the toe. And then Steve Yedlin says, nothing we can do will expand the overall range. And that last one is really where all of this started to make sense, because I was looking for the correct way to expose digital, and there really isn't one. Giving the sensor more light does give an image something. Your shadows are going to be cleaner and you can reduce noise. You're giving that lower end of the image more information, but you're also losing something. It's a give and take because there's only so much range available to you. If you move everything higher, eventually you have less room on the other end. And if you expose lower, you give yourself more room in the highlights, but now you're taking more out of the shadows. They end up getting noisy and the color starts falling apart. So at some point, there just isn't any information there to capture anymore. When Lubetsky is outside shooting The Revenant with the face in front of a bright sun, his decision might be completely different than Deacon's shooting an interior on Blade Runner 2049, and Bradford Young might want Arrival to live down in the bottom of the image, while another cinematographer wants to give the sensor as much exposure as possible and create their blacks through lighting instead. They aren't all trying to solve the same problem. And that seems to be what gets lost when something becomes a number that you're just supposed to hit every time. 1.7 stops over, because maybe that's exactly where you should be, or maybe it isn't. What I do know for sure, though, is that anytime someone says you should do this exact thing in this exact way, especially with something like cinematography, I would be pretty cautious about listening to them. Ultimately, it's going to be about going out and actually setting an exposure to how you like it.
Okay, I like this video, but if it's going to end with like the answer is maybe, that's going to be deeply unsatisfying.
Figuring out what your camera can do, what you can pull off, how far you can push something before it stops looking good to you, and ultimately, what is the look that you're actually going for? Because none of these cinematographers came to the same answer. They made Arrival, The Revenant, Blade Runner 2049, The Batman, The Shape of Water, Mindhunter, and Uncut Gems. What I take from all of them is that they figured out where they want the exposure to live. So instead of watching another YouTube video telling you exactly where your log footage is supposed to sit, go out and actually test it. Figure out which exposure gives you the image that you want to make. Because you can watch every technical breakdown in the world, but at some point, that information only becomes useful once you actually put a camera in your hands and see what happens when you apply it. Push it too far, see what breaks, figure out what you like. Just go practice your cinematography.
So I think to really understand light and be able to light, you have to understand how it makes you feel. You could light it a million ways, but what do you want the audience to feel? That's the important thing.
If you enjoyed the video...
Okay, I mean, I think it was really well done. I find the conclusion a bit unsatisfactory. What do we got next? How David Fincher controls everything. Let's check it out.
My favorite director. His interviews and... David Fincher is my favorite director. His interviews and legendary DVD commentaries are packed with some of the absolute best filmmaking advice on the planet. In this series, we're going to dissect his methods, try to figure out exactly what he's saying, and see how we can apply those lessons to our own work, or at least learn a thing or two in the process. As I was researching, I came across this great quote from screenwriter Aaron Sorkin that perfectly captures the reality of studying a master.
You know, trying to learn from David Fincher is like trying to watch Tiger Woods and then learn golf from him. It's not going to work the same when the golf club's in your hand than it is in David.
With that said, let's dive in and see what we can learn. And if you know of any great David Fincher quotes, let us know down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button, and let's get into it. David Fincher is widely considered as one of the most meticulous, exacting, and visionary directors of the modern era, from his early roots in visual effects to his mastery of digital cinema. Fincher has built a career exploring the darkest corners of human nature. He is often labeled by Hollywood as a perfectionist or a control freak, but these labels oversimplify a much deeper artistic process. To understand Fincher, we have to understand how he views the fundamental art of filmmaking itself.
Directing is really three things. You're editing behavior over time, and then controlling moments that should be really fast and making them slow, and moments that should be really slow and making them fast.
This philosophy didn't develop overnight. By the time he was 8 years old, Fincher already knew he wanted to spend his life making movies. Growing up in Marin County in California, where George Lucas was practically a neighbor, he began shooting Super 8 films, eventually landing a job at Industrial Light and Magic before moving into directing music videos. During his early days on sets, he watched how power dynamics operated behind the camera, leading him to make a vow that would define his entire career.
I watched a lot of directors. I watched talented people that I liked and admired get kind of, spun and worked. And I vowed never to let that happen. I was like, I want to know what every motherfucker in the room does, so that when somebody says to me, we can't do that, it's like, oh yeah, well, Fisher 11 will do that. The drop-down plate, if you just do, I never want to be the guy who was victimized by other people's laziness.
Armed with his encyclopedic knowledge of the craft, Fincher became famous for his sheer volume of takes. It's not uncommon for his actors to perform the same sequence dozens of times. While other actors might find this exhausting, Fincher refuses to let the pressure of a massive budget dictate the rhythm of the story. When millions of dollars are spent building the perfect soundstage, rushing through the actual performances seems absurd to him.
My philosophy is you spend $250,000 on a set. You're gonna put it on a soundstage, it costs you $5,000 a day. You're gonna put $8,000 worth of lights in the You're going to bring a $150,000 crew in. You're going to bring actors in from all over the world. You're going to put them up in hotels. They're going to come there, and the idea is to get them out as soon as possible. Who wants to live like that? If I fly you in from Iceland and you're supposed to do one day, I want to make sure that we get it.
He doesn't push for high take counts to punish the cast. He does it to break their rehearsed habits. He wants to peel away the polish, artificial presentation they bring to the set on the first few takes, forcing them past muscle memory to capture a moment of genuine, uncalculated humanity.
My process is about, I'm going to give you 17, 18, 25 bites at the apple, because if you're smart and if you're conscientious, you've worked out in your head as an actor what it is you want to present me. And presentation is a kind of weird, translucent, diffuse, plastic hymen between what I want it to be and what you want it to be, what the actor wants it to be. And there's always this thing of like, yeah, I've gathered my senses and I'm ready to show you my wares. And I almost always feel like it's bullshit. I almost always feel like it's controlled. And so what I want to do is go, great, show me that. We shot 7 takes. Okay, now let's start. You know, are you done? Because, you know, I know you won the Oscar last night in the tub and you figured out what this is going to be, but now I want to challenge. Now I want to get beyond muscle memory.
To get everyone on the same page for those magical moments, a director must be a master communicator. Fincher knows that an incredibly clear vision is required to bend an army of technicians and artists to the will of the narrative.
I think the greatest thing that all filmmakers need to have is the ability to articulate your intention. Because if you can do that, and you're going to need to do it with a screenwriter, you're going to need to be able to do it with a financier, you're going to need to be able to do it with every single actor that you're hoping to seduce to be part of your cast.
Ultimately, Fincher's uncompromised attitude is born out of a deep responsibility to the final product. Fincher refuses to let the messy, off-screen reality of production bleed into the final edit. He will fight for the exact angles, framing and pacing that the narrative demands.
I'm not going to allow your hangover to influence how I'm going to cut the scene. I'm not going to allow your bad hair day to mandate that we're going to be, you know, the scene plays out in overs. I'm going to get a good master, maybe 3 that are very different in what they're, and then I'm going to go into coverage and I may get 1 to 3 really great overs that are really interesting, and then I'll bring back and do singles. But I want to cut the scene the way I want to cut the scene. I want to cut the scene the way the story mandates, not somebody's comfort.
After making a name for himself in commercials and founding the wildly successful propaganda films, Hollywood finally came knocking for David Fincher. But his highly anticipated feature film debut, Alien 3, quickly turned into a notoriously disastrous experience.
Did he not do Alien 1 and 2? Because I do remember we watched some videos where it was breaking down how Alien 3 was his and it didn't turn out well, and part of it was because the creative control was taken away from him. But my assumption was he did the other Aliens before, no? Did David Fincher direct Alien 1 and 2? No, he did not. He directed Alien 3. So what he did, but that was his debut? Wow. It was Ridley Scott, James Cameron. Okay, let's keep watching then.
Experience. Handed a massive budget by a major studio, the young director found his exacting methods clashing directly with executives.
I didn't like the script, but I love Alien. So yeah, I signed up naive and went off to Pinewood to be sodomized ritualistically for 2 years.
Stripped of his creative control, Fincher learned a painful lesson about navigating the studio system by giving up his trusted, hand-picked team and deferring to a veteran crew chosen by the financiers. He compromised the very collaborative process that had originally made him so successful.
I made a crucial error. I listened to the people who were paying for the movie, and they said the way to go about this is not to work with your friends. The way to go about this is to work with people who've done this time and time and time again. And basically that translates into meet a lot of people who are going to resent you and your age and are not going to want to take instruction from you, and allow them to tell you what you can't do. A lot of people who are just like, what the fuck? Who is this twerp?
The experience left him deeply disillusioned. Believing his feature film career was dead on arrival, he returned to the safety of advertising, but then an unconventional script landed on his desk. It was a dark, gritty thriller called Seven, and as he read it, he found himself entirely captivated by its rule-breaking structure.
Now that was a fantastic movie. I rewatched it recently after we were watching some breakdowns of behind the scenes. And I mentioned when I first saw Seven, I was a kid. So it was way too terrifying, way too complicated for me to understand at the time. Pretty traumatizing too, if you think about it, just with some of the scenes there. But watching it now as an adult, I was like, damn, this is so well done, everything about it.
So I kind of retreated back to doing television commercials and had no expectation that I would ever be employable again. And I got sent a script, and it was Seven. And I got to John Doe, walks into the police station and gives himself up. And I was holding the script, like I knew how many pages were left. And I was going, you can't do this. This is against the rules.
The script concluded with the famously shocking head-in-a-box ending, which absolutely blew him away. He soon discovered, however, that the studio had no intention of shooting that version of the story.
So I called my agent and I said, this head-in-the-box ending it's unbelievable. How do I? He said, oh my God, I sent you the wrong draft. No. That's the first draft. I said, what? He said, yeah, there's like 11 drafts. Do you want me to say it? And I said, no, this is the one. He goes, well, I mean, I don't think they're gonna make that one.
Refusing to compromise on the film's bleak conclusion, Fincher set out to assemble a cast that could bring the heavy material to life. He quickly found his leading man in a rising star.
And I met this long, blonde-haired actor who had just gotten off this movie, Legends of the Fall. And I told him I wanted to make The French Connection, and we hit it off, and I was driving in my car back to the office and I got a call saying, Brad wants to do it.
With Pitt secured as the hot-headed Detective Mills, Fincher needed a grounded veteran to anchor the film as Detective Somerset. Despite his own fears that the legendary actor might turn down such dark material, the script found its way into the hands of Morgan Freeman.
And I called Arnold Kopelson, and Arnold Kopelson said, would you like to talk to Morgan Freeman? I said, we can't send the script to Morgan. Morgan Freeman's a genius. If we send him the script, he'll never speak to me. He said, no, I send it to him, he likes it, he wants to talk to you.
But Fincher was still missing his villain. He knew Kevin Spacey was the perfect fit to play the brilliant and depraved John Doe. But the studio pushed back on Spacey's salary demands. This time, however, Fincher wasn't fighting alone. He had powerful allies who were just as invested in the film's artistic integrity.
I think it was, we were shooting, and Brad said, what's going on with Spacey? Are we gonna get Spacey? And I said, they're running me around the block on his quote. And he said, fuck that. And he got on the phone and he was like, you gotta get Kevin Spacey. And they all said, oh, of course, that's a great idea.
With his cast secured and his creative vision finally protected, Fincher delivered a masterpiece that defined the modern thriller. The disastrous lessons of Alien 3 had ultimately taught him how to defend his artistry.
I have enough stress in my life.
It's not Gordon Gekko. It's not a guy who rips the heart out of his foe and takes a bite out of it before the guy dies. This is a guy who's maintaining a portfolio.
Yes.
Ostensibly, this is a movie about a guy who's dead, and then in the last scene, he's brought back to life.
Armed with the massive success of Seven, Fincher set his sights on Chuck Palahniuk's subversive, anti-capitalist novel Fight Club. Given his dark vision for the adaptation, many assumed Fincher would sneak the film's chaotic, anti-establishment messaging past the studio executives. But Fincher rejects the idea of a rebel filmmaker fighting the system. He views filmmaking as an expensive collaboration, and he was brutally honest with his financiers about exactly what kind of movie they were making.
I don't make movies in spite of the people who pay for them. You know, I don't fund my own films, and the people who do fund them, they're not tricked. They're not drugged and kept in the cellar until we're done shooting. We report to them on a daily basis, and you show them the dailies. I mean, I storyboarded the whole movie. I could take them through the entire thing and say, here's where we're gonna feel a little weird. And this is gonna be a little sickening, and this is a tiny bit misogynist. And you know, we'd walked them through it, and they were, okay, we're ready to take some risks.
While the studio executives who funded the film knew what they were getting, the marketing department had no idea.
It's kind of interesting because I feel like for most professionals in just any field, like even during my corporate days, I felt like the default answer you hear from everyone who says like, you should listen to me, was that you should ask for forgiveness later, right? That tends to be the attitude that is romanticized. It's like, do what you need to, break all the rules, and then ask for forgiveness afterwards. So it's a little bit surprising to hear, I guess, David Fincher, unless I misheard him, it sounded like what he was saying is like, no, I don't hide things from the people who are paying for this or my boss's boss or whatever. I let them know I'm very straightforward. This is what's going to happen, yada, yada. So anyways.
Idea what to do with it. Blind to the film's biting satire, the studio's promotional campaign abandoned the movie's dark humor and instead tried to sell Fight Club to the mainstream audience as a generic action film, setting the project up for a disastrous initial reception.
The people who were responsible for trying to get asses in seats, they felt that the movie wasn't funny, that it had no wit to it, that it was just a bare knuckles boxing picture or something.
What, like in the face? Surprised me.
The fact that it was completely misunderstood by the people whose job it was to solicit an audience only kind of created more of a disparity between what the audience's expectation was.
This massive disconnect between the film's tone and the audience's expectations reached a boiling point during its premiere at the Venice Film Festival. Fincher and his lead actors, Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, sat in the theatre expecting the crowd to embrace the subversive comedy. Instead, they found themselves completely alone on the joke.
But I didn't know who the makeup of this audience was going to be. I thought it was, these were going to be rabid cinephiles. And I think the median age of the audience was 73.
It was dead silent, and we proceeded to howl even harder, and we had a great experience. We thought we were onto something.
And I was sitting there, and these women came out, and there was 4 or 5 of them. It was, a good enough of a portion of a row, and they all kind of vaguely looked like Anne Bancroft in The Graduate, and they were all in their 60s. And this woman looked up and she saw me there and she recognized you have to just stand up and wave at the beginning of the screening. And she looked at me and she just went.
While some directors might have been crushed by the hostility, Fincher embraced it. He doesn't believe that cinema should be easy to digest or universally loved. He views the medium.
Okay, photos are done. So I have 2 versions for this one. We got this like super wide angle shot. I think for this one, I was just going for making the focus clearly on the kid and whatever he's wheeling, and then everything else, soften it up a bit in terms of the colors, mute it. And my cat's saying hi. Hello, Nala. You want to come up? Good girl. Come on. Wait, was Nala... I think this is her first time on stream today, yeah? She was kind of doing her thing wherever she was. Ugh, let's figure out how to that okay? All right, so we got Nala in the stream. You want to say anything, Nala? Gotta say into the mic. Mm-hmm. All right. What were we saying? Into the mic, Nala. Mm-hmm. Yes. Are you a good girl? Cool. Yeah, so I was going with like, let's mute the colors a little bit, just a tad bit. Not so much that it's like separates the subject completely from the background. And then sharpen it up a little bit in the subject. And then, yeah, I think this looks decent from a wide angle perspective. And then we kept with an IMAX version of the kid just walking past. So there you go. All right, so now we can start focusing on reviewing some of these wildlife shots. I don't know if some of these ones are going to be like good ones or keepers in the beginning. I think this is like literally on the drive into camp. So I didn't have all my camera stuff situated. I was just taking some drive-by shots. We'll see.
As a powerful tool meant to provoke, challenge, and occasionally assault the viewer's sensibilities.
Movies should inflict themselves on the audience.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm so tired of this whole idea of it just being entertainment or dessert. You know, movies are a commodity now. Audiences in general don't like to be made uncomfortable. It makes them uncomfortable to be uncomfortable.
Ultimately, Fincher's meticulous process, from his high take counts to his fights over marketing, serves a single, unifying goal. He wants to harness an army of crew members and millions of dollars of technology just to trigger a shared visceral reaction in a dark room full of strangers.
It takes titanium and aluminum and steel and glass and lasers to do one thing: impart feeling. That's all we do to strangers. And we want to impart that feeling to everyone in the audience at the exact same time. And that's the magic of cinema.
To truly understand Fincher's mastery of the frame, you have to look at his beginnings. Long before he was demanding dozens of takes from Hollywood A-listers, Fincher was learning how to build cinematic illusions from the ground up. He didn't just want to direct, he wanted to engineer every pixel on the screen. This obsession with technical precision began at George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic, where a young Fincher got his hands dirty in the trenches of practical visual effects.
And then out of that, I went to Industrial Light and Magic, who was hiring, and I worked in Go Motion, which was way before computer-generated imagery. They would have puppets that have rods going into them, and you could program them on a potentiometer. You could adjust the position in space, and then the computer would play back those moves, and you did it very much like multi-track recording. So there's a puppet about 3 feet high, and you could take it and you could move its foot, and you could sort of prescribe the movements of its feet, and then somebody else would come in and take care of the gross movement of the hips and the knees. And I worked on Return of the Jedi, the chicken walkers, the tanks. I worked on that. So I did that for about 8 or 9 months.
That early exposure of visual effects gave Fincher a unique perspective on what could be achieved in post-production. As the industry transitioned into the 21st century, he became one of Hollywood's most vocal champions of digital cinema. For his sweeping serial killer epic, Zodiac, Fincher abandoned traditional film stock entirely. He pushed his crew to adopt new digital cameras and editing workflows that completely revolutionized how his sets operated.
David had wanted to shoot a movie digitally, so he's shooting Zodiac with Viper Cam, and then we are converting the files.
Zodiac was a good movie. That was one of the few, like, I remember I read the book. Was it called The Zodiac Killer? I forget. But I read a book about the whole serial killer stuff, and it was really fascinating. I didn't realize it was in San Francisco, because then I ultimately moved to San Francisco for a bit. I didn't make the connection until I watched the movie. I was like, oh my God. Great movie, though. Was
to
it Jake
DVC
Gyllenhaal? Am I wrong?
Pro HD for editing in Final Cut Pro.
With this movie, the attitude that we've taken is, okay, we've shot the setups, we have the coverage, we have the pieces that we feel we need, and now we need to kind of sift through it and find the humanity of it.
Our whole mission with this was to think about the post-production aspect of it in a completely new way. Be creative. Use the tools that are out there that you can just buy on a website or go to a store, get, and use those. Why do you have to have all this specialized equipment? You don't.
For Fincher, the shift to digital wasn't just about saving money on film stock. It was about regaining absolute control. The immediacy of digital filmmaking erased the terrifying blind spot of the celluloid era. By bringing the editing process directly onto the set, Fincher could instantly see if his meticulous plans were actually working.
I love the fact that an editor can come to me and say, I have to leave now, I'm gonna work on this tonight, and take it on his laptop, and by 9 o'clock in the morning, I can see it on a 65-inch plasma. That's a whole new world. You want to be able to put all the screens up and go, oh, he's great here and he's great here, so let's cut from these two. Oh, this is not the best place. So you do want to do it sort of like a live switch. It's just a really fast way to work. This is indicative of where media, where visual storytelling, where pictures, where communication is headed. What this kind of tool set allows you to do is to experiment and, you know, kind of quell those questions that you might have. That makes me sleep easier, makes me go, okay, I'm telling the story that I want to tell. And that's a great world for making movies.
But before the cameras even rolled, Fincher relies heavily on pre-visualization, or previs, to digitally map out complex sequences. He creates crude, computer-generated versions of his scenes months in advance. While some studios balk at the upfront cost, Fincher views it as an essential blueprint that prevents million-dollar mistakes on the day of a shoot.
Previs at this point is expensive, but you know, the prices of it, like the prices of visual effects, the prices of it will come down. It's simply 21st century storyboarding, that's all.
When it finally comes time to shoot the live-action elements, that same rigorous planning dictates his camera placement. Fincher relies heavily on multi-camera setups to ensure his coverage is airtight. He demands mathematical precision from his operators, who occasionally turn the physical production into an absolute obstacle course.
Well, I unfortunately am crippled and hamstrung by this idea of using. I use two cameras almost all the time because I like to plan for things that I need to have real tight continuity matches. And so I will, almost invariably, it's a rat fuck to get from monitors to the cast. And so I will, you know, I'll fight my way through it a first couple times, and then, you know, usually they clear some space for me because I'm, you know, grumbling and with the fucking spaghetti. And
Fincher's embrace of the digital realm is not used as a crutch to fix sloppy directing. Instead, it acts as a surgical tool. Whether he's digitally stabilizing a camera move, combining best halves of two different takes, or painting out certain objects in a frame, Fincher proves that digital cinema can perfectly emulate, even surpass, the magic of traditional film.
you know, you can safely say that anything that you can get with a film camera, you can emulate with a digital camera if you're willing to give it enough time and do enough delving into it.
While David Fincher's visual exactness is legendary, his mastery of the cinematic experience relies just as heavily on the invisible forces of sound and psychology. To fully immerse the audience, he builds an auditory world designed to put the viewer directly inside the protagonist's head.
The immersive nature of the movie is all it's about. You know, it's really about, we take a camera, we put it in the orbital sockets of a character, and we give you his thoughts. And so everything becomes about how you illustrate the specific point of view.
This obsessive pursuit of immersion often leads Fincher to unconventional audio techniques. For his film Mank, which explores the writing of Citizen Kane, he wanted the soundtrack to accurately reflect the cinematic experience of the 1940s. Rather than simply using a digital audio plugin or degrade the sound, Fincher and his sound designer, Ren Kleiss, went to extraordinary physical lengths to achieve the perfect vintage echo.
We ended up finally making a congealed mix, and it was only at the very, very end of step 2 where we then played the entire mix back in the scoring stage, which of course you know very well.
The Skywalker, sure.
Yeah. And we set up a bunch of microphones and re-recorded the reverb as if it was the cast of theater. Yeah.
Beyond dialogue and sound effects, Fincher relies on Oscar-winning musical duo of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross to elevate his narratives. Their partnership, which began with The Social Network, provides the dark, electronic and pulsing heartbeat of his modern filmography. Fincher trusts them implicitly, often giving them bizarre, conceptual prompts to evoke a very specific feeling of unease.
I want your version of the kind of music that they play when you get a massage. You know, it's always supposed to be this music that kind of calms you and lets you know everything's going to be okay. Give that to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and see what they come back with, and you end up with something that makes you go, you know, it just sounds like the hair standing up in the back of your neck. But it still has this idea behind it, because the idea is the important thing.
This unnerving, hair-raising tone is the perfect backdrop for the dark, thematic territory Fincher navigates. Across projects like Seven, Zodiac, and the Netflix series Mindhunter, he has continually returned to stories about serial killers. Fincher recognizes that audiences are inherently drawn to these subjects.
It's always that, right? It's always that thing that you can't quite touch, you can't quite get at it, you don't understand what makes them do what they do.
He actively avoids the Hollywood cliché of the glamorous, cultured, evil genius like Hannibal Lecter. By diving deep into the real-world behavioral science of the FBI, Fincher strips away the mythic supervillain tropes, presenting these killers with a bleak, clinical reality. He forces us to look at these monsters not as masterminds, but as sad, incomprehensible human beings.
To me, these are very sad people who've grown up under horrendous circumstances. The reason that we are fascinated with them is because we're nothing like them. They are unfathomable. We literally can't.
As Fincher transitions into the later stages of his career, his rigid demand for control didn't soften. If anything, the painful lesson he learned during his early days in the studio system only reinforces his ironclad grip on his productions. He knows when millions of dollars are on the line. Creating compromises rarely saves a film. Ultimately, the director is the one who will be held responsible for the final product. So he refuses to surrender his authority to nervous executives.
When the shit hits the fan, all of a sudden, everybody scatters.
Okay, we got the next photo done. All right. Let's review it. So basically we had the original, not this one. So we had the original. Then I put it through my presets, a bit of extra work in Lightroom. And then I created 2 different versions once I put it through Dehancer. So yeah, we got this kind of wide-ish angle version and then the IMAX version. So yeah. I'm not too bothered by this image I didn't have high hopes with this particular shot, so I'm happy with how it turned out because I think it's, I don't know, above average. I'm happy with it. It's a very weird shot, that's what I'll say. It's not necessarily one that I would have been like, oh, I need to capture this moment, but it kind of worked itself out because you got these 2 giraffes in the background. And they all kind of follow the same direction, I guess, angle-wise. So, all right, what's the next photo? Let's figure this out.
You're the guy standing there going, wait, who's got a suggestion now? So if I'm going to take the blame, if I'm going to take the brunt of it, I'm going to make the decisions.
This desire to make his own decisions without studio interference led Fincher to the frontiers of the streaming revolution, where he was approached to executive produce and direct the pilot of House of Cards. He initially resisted the idea of working in television. However, he quickly realized that a changing landscape of cinema was leaving less room for the dark, character-driven stories he loved to tell.
Television has become the place for characters to evolve. There's very little time in movies anymore for characterization. And I think television is a place where characters can be slowly peeled and revealed.
His partnership with Netflix completely disrupted the traditional Hollywood distribution model. More importantly for Fincher, it gave him a creative sanctuary. It allowed him to finally make a deeply personal passion project like Mank, a black and white mono audio period piece about the 1940s screenwriter with a drinking problem. For Fincher, the endless debates about whether streaming is ruining the theater experience completely missed the point.
I would point to this movie as the prime example of what is great about a Netflix, which is that they'll make it, you know, and that's that. I don't know that this movie like gets made at, you know, at Warner's or at.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. I'm sure it doesn't. I have 25 years of surety that it doesn't.
Do you care about people seeing it in a theater? Do you want people to see your movie on a big screen?
I would love people to see it, but let's be honest. More people have seen Seven on VHS than saw it.
I had an S video connection from.
Oh, okay. I would love everyone to see everything in 4K Atmos at 45 feet across. So in a perfect world, that would be great.
Despite his towering success and his permanent fingerprint on modern cinema, Fincher rejects the idea that filmmakers should obsess over their own prestige. While critics constantly analyze his films for deeper sociological meanings, Fincher prefers to view his work through a much more pragmatic lens. He views filmmaking as an elaborate, expensive piece of entertainment, not a cure for the world's ailments.
Hitchcock once said, "I'm not making slices of life, I'm making slices of cake." And I think that, you know, it's important to, you know, we're not curing cancer. We're just making a movie with actors pretending to be burglars.
After decades of pushing both himself and his crews to their absolute limits, he openly admits that the physical demands of directing are catching up to him.
Okay, I had to take a pause because I don't know, I must have missed the moment, but something scared my cat. It might have been Kimbap hopping down, but I felt something vibrate. So there was like the building kind of shook a little bit. So then Nala freaked out a bit. So I'm trying to calm her down. She gets like super wound up though, like if she freaks out, and then she'll sprint around the house and everything. So I'm trying to keep her chill here for a second. All's good, Nala. You can see like even now she's like looking off in the direction of whatever freaked her out. Come on, Nala. All's good. You good? You good, Nala? A good girl? There you go. Cool.
No, it kind of is a young man's game. This job especially requires a kind of energy that, you know, 90 people have to feed off of for any given day. And you do find yourself, you know, at the end of a movie, you know, you can be dependent. I mean, I've shot, you know, 150-day movies. So you're running on fumes at the end of 150 days.
Whether he retires to the south of France tomorrow or directs another 20 years, David Fincher's legacy is secured. He showed a generation of filmmakers that an obsessive, unyielding dedication to the technical mechanics of filmmaking is exactly what allows the artist to shine through.
My father once said to me, I don't know who he was quoting, but, you know, learn your craft, it'll never stop you from being a genius. And that's the kind of thinking, you know, that's what you want to surround yourself with.
If you like this video, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. What's his name again? Rory Anderson. Great video. All right, what's this one?
You're naturally.
Why is this cut off? The Royal Navy's photographers. Why we keep returning to the Shawshank Redemption. All right.
That initially collapsed at the box office, go on to become the most universally beloved piece of cinema in history by any standard Hollywood metric. The Shawshank Redemption should have been a forgotten footnote of 1994, squeezed out by the cultural giants like Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction. Yet for decades, it has sat comfortably at the absolute pinnacle of IMDb's top 250 films, outranking the most prestigious works of Coppola, Spielberg, and Scorsese. For filmmakers, this presents an invaluable lesson. It didn't find its audience through massive studio marketing, but through a slow, organic, and unstoppable wave of human connection.
The Internet Movie Database has provided me with some sort of legitimacy, I guess, because the people who log on to this get to vote for their all-time favorite movies, and there have been times, I don't know, out of a list of 250 movies when we've been in the top spot of people's all-time favorite films. It blows my mind.
In modern filmmaking, studios often obsess over catering to target demographics, analyzing market data to manufacture artificial appeals. But Shawshank teaches us that the films with the longest lifespans are those that function as unintentional emotional therapy. The film touches a raw, universal nerve because it doesn't shy away from suffering. Instead, it offers a cinematic sanctuary. When audiences watch Andy and Red, they aren't just looking at two inmates in Maine. They are projecting their own divorces, their own grief, and their own private battles within those prison walls.
I've gotten mail, and I still get mail from people who say, gosh, your movie got me through a really bad marriage, or a really bad divorce, or it got me through a really bad patch in my life, or it got me through a really bad illness, or it helped me hang on when a loved one died. There's something about the movie that helps lend some courage to people who need it.
This brilliant screenplay lesson hidden within this film is how writer-director Frank Darabont constructed the setting as an internal psychological metaphor. A lesser script would have focused strictly on the procedural mechanics of prison life, but Darabont recognized that every single member of the audience lives inside a prison of their own making, whether it's a dead-end career, a crushing routine, or the invisible limitations we allow others to place upon our lives. Andy's quiet battle against the Shawshank is a visual guide on how to survive the slow, grinding institutionalization of the real world.
Well, because it was so moving and so, at the end, so exhilarating, so inspiring. It's a great story, and it's not just about prison. It's about the limitations we place on ourselves in life, and the limitations, more importantly, that we allow others to place on us. Mm-hmm. And if we listen to them, and we believe what these people are saying to us, that we're really building walls around ourselves. We're really building our own prison.
Ultimately, the film has endured because it dared to be so life-affirming in a cynical age. It treats hope not as a cheap, sentimental gimmick, but as a grueling, hard-earned, and active choice. In terms of storytelling, Darabont didn't pander to immediate gratification. He played the long game, showing that true redemption requires patience, persistence, and an absolute refusal to let the world deaden your soul. It remains a masterpiece because it reminds us of a simple, beautiful truth, that no matter how deep the hole we are cast into, our inherent dignity is something that can never be locked away.
There's a very basic message that I think people really want to hear. Some people find it unforgivably corny, but I think most people want to hear it, and that is that we have value. Every human being has value, every human being has potential, and every human being has dignity.
Every masterpiece in cinema begins not on a bustling set, but in a quiet, often antagonizing space of the blank page. For writer-director Frank Darabont, the journey of making The Shawshank Redemption didn't start with a grand studio contract. It began with a profound, intimidating respect for the written word. Many filmmakers rush to adapt stories the moment they acquire the rights, driven by the fear of losing momentum. But Darabont teaches us a vital filmmaking lesson in patience. He recognized early on that a director's ambition must never outpace their actual technical craft. He held on to the rights of Stephen King's novella, Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, for 5 years before he even sat down to write a single line of the screenplay.
I was absolutely just gobsmacked by the simplicity of it and the sort of the beauty of it. The thematic elements of friendship and hope being so nourishing to the human spirit, it just really spoke to me. It took 5 years for me to get around to writing it. When I did write it, I did it in 8 weeks flat.
But I set it aside for 5 years because I wanted my level of skill as a writer to match my ambition for that particular script, and I didn't think that it did it, when I first got the rights to it.
This relationship between Stephen King and Frank Darabont was forged on a unique, legendary Hollywood program known as the Dollar Baby. King, skeptical of whether his highly internal, psychological stories could translate onto the silver screen, allowed aspiring young filmmakers to option his shorter works for literal pocket change. This provides an invaluable lesson for indie filmmakers today. Building relationships with authors and starting small can yield monumental creative control down the line. Darabont had already directed a short film on King's work prior. This established trust allowed Darabont to adapt the novella with an unprecedented level of creative freedom. How does a filmmaker find the visual and tonal language of their movie? Many directors would approach a prison script by leaning into grimy, depressing realism. But Darabont's genius lay in his ability to identify a completely different genre lurking beneath the prison walls. He didn't see a bleak, clinical prison movie. He saw a mythic, tall tale, drawing deep inspiration from the warm, story-driven sensibility of legendary director Frank Capra and illustrator Norman Rockwell. Darabont framed Shawshank as a narrative of cinematic poetry rather than historical document. This tonal shift is why the movie is so deeply life-affirming. It prioritizes the human spirit over the oppressive bricks of the institution.
Making films since childhood seemed like a glorious thing to me. That's indeed where I drew a great deal of my inspiration growing up, was from the films that I saw. I love Capra. I grew up with Capra, and I grew up with Norman Rockwell. There's a part of me that is completely captivated by those kinds of storytellers who would tell those kinds of tall tales. Some of the best tall tales I've ever heard came out of Frank Capra. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is nothing if not a tall tale. It's a Wonderful Life is an even taller tale. No, you have Shawshank Redemption, which I've described really not as a prison movie, but as a sort of tall tale.
When you sell your script, it's just as important how you write it. Darabont spent years in the studio system as a writer, witnessing firsthand how delicate stories get pulverized by executive committees. He knew The Shawshank Redemption required a studio that understood delicate, character-driven material. There was only one option: Castle Rock Entertainment. The studio had perfectly captured Stephen King's Stand By Me by refusing to shop the script to standard blockbuster factories. Darabont protected the integrity of the written word, setting the stage for what many consider the most complete screenplay in Hollywood history.
Castle Rock was the first place we sent the script, and the only place we sent the script. I'd had enough experience at other studios as a writer to know how damaged this material might get. Their company actually was founded upon the success of Stand By Me, directed by Rob Reiner, and that was very delicate material that they captured perfectly.
One of the most common pitfalls in film casting. Many directors limit their search to actors who look exactly like the words on the page. The character of Red was described as a middle-aged white American of Irish descent. Yet when looking to cast the role, Darabont threw away his physical preconceptions entirely. He understood that Red's primary function was to be the emotional anchor and the narrator of the story, requiring an actor who projected deep, unquestionable integrity, warmth, and vocal gravity.
The character was written by Steve King, was actually a white Irish guy, so I'd known the story for years as with Red as a white Irish guy in my head. When we were casting about, somebody suggested Morgan Freeman. And once I got over my preconception of what the character was, which was drawn from Steve King, it became such a good choice. And indeed, I think he's become indelible in the role to the point where I don't think people could imagine anybody else really doing it.
The physical subversion of the source material did not stop with Red. In Stephen King's book, the protagonist, Andy, was described as a short man. Instead, Darabont cast Tim Robbins, one of the tallest actors working in Hollywood. This choice serves as a vital lesson in casting. Andy is a man with a hidden internal life, carrying a monumental secret. behind a quiet, methodical exterior. The director needed an actor who could play an enigma, someone the audience and the other inmates must constantly squint at to try and decode. Robin's specific physical and psychological presence allowed him to portray Andy as a highly cerebral figure who hides his extraordinary determination behind a mask of calm resignation. In modern film production, the rehearsal period is almost non-existent. Most actors arrive on set, get thrown into their wardrobes, and are expected to perform immediately, with little to no prior contact with their co-stars. But Darabont fought for a luxury that is normally reserved for live theatre, time. He knew that to sell a 20-year friendship, the chemistry between Robbins and Freeman had to feel lived in and absolute. To achieve this, the production rehearsed in Ohio for almost a full month, before rolling a single frame of film. They literally measured the dimensions of the set on the floor of a rehearsal space, allowing the actors to work out the physical and emotional kinks of their performances in a low-stakes environment.
What I was going to allude to before was the fact that we rehearsed Shawshank for almost a month, and that's so rare. We did it like the theater, you know, we taped out the set, and we got to the set, and you rehearsed. And that's when actors get to work out kinks, and a lot of times when actors are embodying a character, things are created.
The true value of the extensive rehearsal process lies in the deep trust it builds between performers. Casting is ultimately an act of alchemy, a volatile chemical mix that a director can only guide, not force. But Robbins and Freeman spent weeks living inside the characters together. They developed a rare, responsive rhythm on set. They were not merely waiting for their turn to speak, they were actively listening and responding to each subtle change in colour or pitch from take to take. This level of collaboration allowed for key improvisations and iconic lines of dialogue to be discovered organically, transforming a written script into a living, breathing, emotional bond.
And it was golden working with him, because every different take of particular.
I haven't seen this actor in anything since Shawshank, except for the TV show Silo. That's it. I don't know if I've seen him in any prominent movie. I mean, not to say I've seen everything, right? But like, yeah, after Shawshank, what are the other key roles he played in? I mean, I thought he was an excellent actor and everything. I just don't remember seeing his face now.
We've seen. If I changed it a little bit, if I colored it a little bit differently, he would go right along with me. I with him, and it was just a joy working with him.
In film school, directors are taught that a setting should never be a passive background. It must actively drive the narrative. For The Shawshank Redemption, director Frank Darabont treated location scouting not merely as finding a practical shooting space, but as casting one of the movie's most critical characters. Darabont knew that to make Andy's 20-year journey feel earned, the prison walls had to physically press down on the audience's chest. Finding an empty facility that could embody this oppressive, mythic force became one of the film's first major production hurdles. They weren't looking for a modern, clinical penitentiary. They needed a structure that visually personified the sheer weight of time and human suffering.
The challenge was finding the prison, basically, which I think we found, and the prison is our main character, and one of the main characters, and works in its strange, dreamlike way well for us.
We were sort of casting empty prisons when we cast actors.
But it was not a nice place, this correctional facility. It was shut down for cruel and inhuman punishment. It was a seriously bad monument to man's inhumanity to man.
The search led the team to the decommissioned Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. Built in the late 19th century, its architecture was a striking blend of Victorian Gothic and Romanesque styles. From a filmmaking standpoint, this visual language is highly expressionistic, imposing stone towers, steep vertical lines, and arched windows. Shooting on location has a profound psychological effect on a film's cast and crew. You can build a set that looks accurate, but you can't easily fabricate the haunting history of a practical space. When the actors walked onto the stone floors each day, they were walking into a space that had absorbed decades of actual human trauma. This real-world atmosphere forced the actors to drop their performance masks entirely. The cold, heavy air of Mansfield seeped directly into their bones.
You just felt the weight of all that sadness of all those years. It seeped into the stone of this place.
It came from my son.
It came from your son. That's right. I
He
remember.
walked in and he said, "This place is very sad."
Yeah.
And I don't want to be here. And he, you know, it was seriously palpable, the pain that was in that room. You could really feel it. It was very,
those tiny cells. Tiny cells.
Yet one of the most vital filmmaking lessons from Shawshank is knowing when to use a real location and when to build a soundstage. While the reformatory exterior was magnificent, shooting long dialogue.
Okay, we did it. We've got the final images here. So we got image 1, image 2, and number 3. Cool. Oh, that was good. Yeah, these were tricky ones because I shot with the 400 lens. I'm assuming I had it on the teleconverter. Yeah, so it was at 560 millimeters, 5.6 aperture. Tiny ass bird. So it was a pretty decent challenge to try to get it tracking. I have the behind the scenes for this as well in terms of the nano footage. So that should be exciting. Just give me a second though. I want to, we have all these images in green. I've been using the green color label for my finalized photos. So let me turn it off on, starting from here. Go all the way to there. Let's turn it off. Cool. And then we'll go 5-star. These ones, bring it back to green. There we go. Okay, there we go. So now these are the 3 final images. We got image 1, 2, 3. This one, what was the ratio that I chose? Okay, yeah, so this is 16:9. This one was the 16:5 ratio, and this is, what is this one? Was it the 1.91? Yeah, 1.91. But I'm happy with it. We got some good shots out of it. My cat's back. What are you doing? Look at this guy. Look at this cutie. Making his biscuits. I wonder if you can hear it in the microphone from here. Currently, he's like a purring machine. Not sure if it's caught in the audio there, but... All right, so we're making some good progress. What comes next after this? So we got the 3 shots here. Oh yeah, let me show you the behind the scenes. So behind the scenes, we've got... What day is this from? 14. Did it rain overnight or?
I don't think so, no.
Huh? So these are the, so we would wake up super early every morning, basically before sunrise or so, walk to the vehicles, head over to the other side of the camp, meet up with the other guides, and then make sure everyone's, I would have to hand out all the cameras, the batteries, memory cards, and then off we go. So yeah, it's pretty intense. So we can put it in the box for now. Just over there. Okay. Who can tell me the 3 exposure triangle? Okay. You get the best camera. See, when you answer, you get. So this is What's that?
If I knew, I would have said it.
All right, so this is the Z9. This is the most powerful. I mean, we're gonna keep switching, so maybe you won't. So anyways, yeah, so I'd hand out the cameras with the lenses. So everyone gets a shot at each one, basically, as much as possible. But yeah, that was just my way. And then we'd have to keep track of who shot with what throughout. Then we get in the vehicles. Beautiful drives in the mornings. Most of it is just, man, I was talking as much as I talk on these streams, I guess, when I'm at my most yappiest. But yeah, I was there to teach knowledge as much as possible. So I would talk about like, hey, here's my perspective as a photographer. You know, here are some of the things I might look for in the early morning drives. This is what I want. You know, talking about how to set up your cameras, yada yada.
Yes, we like ranging from 800, 1,000.
And then they would ask questions, and I do my best to answer. I'm trying to look for the exact moment.
Stop, and you know, you're like, guys.
Here, they're looking for the photographer, right? Like,
Spotlight.
one thing I always
To let you know, and we be quiet for
a second and just let them, yeah.
Yeah, and after that, you.
Oh, this might be it. Let's see. Okay, so we stopped for those big hornbills, but there's the moment I'm looking for is the photos I just edited, trying to see the actual moment where we were tracking the, I forget the name of those birds. I gotta look it up later. This was a really cool moment. Car. And so for the photographer, they want the shot where the animal's looking. So, yeah, like this, right? This can become a moment. Perfect, perfect. So keep that.
So, some people.
Yeah. The shadow, there's enough light. Open. You want, for something like this, depending on how many drivers, yeah, obviously if you get closer, it'll fly. This is it. So you might just have to stay. So it's probably too tiny to see on the screen, but the tiny little dot around where my mouse is, that's where that one long-tailed bird was trying to mate with the other. It was like doing its courting dance. And by courting dance, I mean it was stalking the female bird. So it was just like chasing the bird around. And at one point she goes over to a tree over there. He follows her, then comes back here. So this is what you're, you know, obviously I had the 400mm lens, so I was doing my best to try to track it. We can try with this one. Maybe with your big, yeah, let's just test for now, see how far. You should also see, like, with this lens, is this too far? So here, I was also kind of trying to teach them a little bit just by practicing how these lenses actually make a difference in terms of how close or how far you have to be from the subject. Sometimes people, if you don't have practice with some of these lenses, you have a false assumption in either direction. You might think like, oh, I see these professionals with these long lenses. That means they can shoot from something like all the way where that tree is. I should be able to get like a clean, you know, you can zoom in all the way. And in reality, your cameras aren't that powerful. Those lenses don't allow that much reach. But then on the flip side, people don't also know how much you can actually see something from a distance with some of these lenses and cameras. So this is like for them to get some practice with the different lenses to understand like, oh, this is what it means to have a 300mm focal length or a 200 or a 400, 500, 600. So yeah. Back up. Let's see.
How high can I put the ISO?
Hmm? Your ISO can go very high, but right now you want it low. So just want to see if you can see it flying. Okay, so it took off here, tiny little dot. It's flying over to that tree. That's where I took those first photos. I didn't really edit any of those in terms of it didn't make the final cut. But they started playing around over on the top of this tree right there. I wish I could, there's too much sunlight glaring, so you can't really see what I'm capturing here. And then I did mix between photo and video. The video should be really nice because I was able to keep it in frame for decent chunks of time, and I was filming at 120 frames per second. So
there's some other birds behind.
Yeah, these. Yeah, that's the birds behind.
anyways, we stayed here for a little bit of time. Oh, I guess you can kind of see it on the screen.
I'm doing video now.
So this should end up becoming a nice Instagram reel, because you'll be able to see like the vertical, it'll be in vertical format, but you'll see like, oh, behind the scenes as I'm tracking this bird, and then it'll switch over to that super slow motion 120 frames per second version of this. But yeah. Okay, anyways, that somewhere in there was this particular moment of the bird chase. Now, is there more of these shots I should edit? Ugh, I took so many. Yeah, I guess I do have a few more to edit. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to save that for next time. I have a few videos. I mentioned I posted something on Instagram, and I have a few videos that I want to work on, because I was thinking, I initially thought I could try to post it tonight. But let's see how much work I can get done. But I do want to get something published maybe by tomorrow. So this is where we will say our goodbyes. My cats also say goodbye, or one's already kind of falling asleep over here. Good boy. And we got Nala sleeping over there. So thank you everyone for a wonderful stream. Today is Thursday, so I'm taking the next couple days off. So like I said, when I take these days off, I'm just using it to work through more stuff. So I'm working on the next 1 or 2 videos on YouTube. I'm working on episode 4 of my travel series. I'm working on some Instagram Reels. That's probably what I want to work on once I end the stream. I just want to wrap it up now while I have it. And then some additional posts for Instagram. So we got a lot of things on the plate. Separately, I'm working on getting prepared for the IRL live stream. So once we head off to Kenya in November. So a lot of tech stuff that I need to start purchasing, getting it prepared and all that. So anyways, we got our hands full. It's going to be exciting times though. The next few months, I'm very excited for what we'll be able to accomplish. And so yeah, hopefully you as a viewer, supporter, follower, whatever you want to call yourselves, I hope you guys are excited to be a part of whatever we achieve. So, all right. Happy Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys on Sunday.